Okay, let's do the review for the finding the equation of the line test coming up. Alright, so make sure you read the directions on here and be very careful because sometimes they ask you for an equation, like here, and other times they ask you for just the slope, so it's always important to know what you're actually trying to do. So when you ask you for an equation, you know your answer should look like this. I think on all these on the review, they are asking for the equation, or they might say something like find the equation in slope-intercept form. That's the same thing. You want to put all your answers in this format. Okay. So let's get started. Just a little review on slope. Okay. So if the line's going up, it's going to be a positive slope. If it's going down, it's negative. If it's just flat horizontal, that's zero slope, right? And if it's vertical, that's undefined. Okay. For undefined, that's the only exception to the rule as far as the equation. Undefined is always going to be x equals. And we can see that on the graph. So let's get started. Number one, find a couple points where they go through exactly, right? And we can do the slope. It's up 1 over 4. So slope is up 1 over 4, and the y-intercept is at 1, 2, 3, negative 4. So the y-intercept is at negative 4. And again, don't leave it like this. The answer is the equation. You want to put those in for m and b. So my final answer will be y equals 1/4 x minus 4. As we just saw for number 2, it's a horizontal line, so the slope is 0, right? And the y-intercept is positive 1. Okay, so to write that equation, we could write it all the way out, which would be 0x plus 1, but we really never write a 0x on our answer, so we can just write our final answer as y equals 1 and drop the 0x part. Okay, let's do a few more. We have a negative slope here, right? So we use this point and this point, which is going to be down 4 and right 3. So slope is negative 4 over 3, and the y-intercept is here at 0. So our equation, y equals mx plus b, is negative 4 over 3x, right? And then the y-intercept is 0. But kind of like we had over here, don't really include the zeros, whether it's the slope or the y-intercept. Don't really include those into the answer. So my final answer will just be y equals negative 4/3 x. That's it. And lastly is the one that's different from all the others, right? So there is no slope. The slope is undefined, right? And there is no y-intercept. You see, this never crosses the y-axis, so there's none here either. So that's the one that's different from all the others. You'll notice that it only crosses the x-axis at negative 3. And that's the equation, where it crosses and what axis it crosses at. It crosses the x-axis at negative 3. So anytime you have an undefined slope, you can go straight to x equals and just see where it crosses. Or you can look at the coordinates when they give you coordinates and see what the x-coordinate is for undefined. And undefined means there is no run. So if we found the slope here, like this is up 2, right? But there's no right or left. So when you have a 0 underneath, that's how you know you have an undefined. There's a 0 underneath the bottom. Okay, let's continue on. These are just going to be solving for slope-intercept form. So mainly just get y equals. You want to get y equals. So let's get rid of a negative 5x by adding 5x. Alright, so that equals 0. And usually you can put this x part first, so I'm going to put the plus 5 first and the 4 second. Never add these together. If they have one has a variable, one doesn't, you should just keep them separate. So don't make a 9x or anything. That will be the final answer. Okay, let's do a few more. Again, we're trying to get y by itself, so this time I have to get rid of a positive 2x, and then I have to get rid of a negative 3. So I'm going to get rid of positive 2x by subtracting 2x. Okay. And then I'm going to, again, put the slope first, y-intercept second, and then divide by negative 3 everywhere. So that equals positive 1. So I got 1y equals, let's see here, negative over negative is positive, so I have positive 2 over 3x. And positive over negative is a negative. My final answer will be y equals positive 2 over 3x minus 2. And one more just for practice. So this is basically the same steps. Do the opposite for the x value. And then divide by the coefficient of y. And can't really simplify negative 7 over 2, so I just left it as negative 7 over 2. But 4 divided by 2, that does go evenly, so we can write that as minus 2. And let's find again the equation of the line, right? This is the same thing we did before. Write everything in y equals mx plus b form. So these are pretty straightforward. They give you the m and the b for each one. So this is almost like the first 3 problems we did, where we just have to, well, we didn't have to find the actual numbers on the graph. They just give them to us. So these are very quick. And don't mind that there's fractions for both of these on the last one. It's okay. See? So those are really, oops, I wrote m equals by accident. Let's do y equals. Yeah. So those are pretty fast. If they give you a slope and a y-intercept, that's the fastest problem there can be. So the question is, well, what happens if they don't give you the y-intercept? You have to find it yourself. So slope of 4, okay, and we just need to find the y-intercept. So use y equals mx plus b. So we know m is going to be 4, right? And then use these two guys right here for x and y. So y is 5, so we have 5 equals 4 times 2. Yeah, so 4 times 2 is 8. And subtract 8 on both sides. That'll give us negative 3. So again, that's not the answer though. The answer is an equation, right? So we need to write something like this. Y equals mx plus b. So just like the few problems we just did above, we have our slope, we have our y-intercept. So equation is y equals 4x minus 3. And that's the final answer. Let's do that a few more times. Already given the slope, negative 6. Just need to do y equals mx plus b to find the y-intercept. Okay, so we know negative 6 is the slope. So I'll put that in. And then I can use 1 for x, negative 4 for y. So negative 4 equals negative 6 times 1 plus b. Negative 6 times 1 is just negative 6. And then go ahead and add 6 to both sides. Negative 4 plus 6, or 6 minus 4, same thing. You'll get 2. Okay, so the final answer is going to be m equals -6, y-intercept is 2, y equals -6 plus 2. Okay, let's just do one more. So already given the slope. And let's just do the y-intercept part. So we have y equals mx plus b. Very repetitive, it's just more practice. Should write 1/2, not 1/4. There we go. So I got 1/2. And x is going to be -6. And y is going to be +3. So I have half of -6, which is -3. And then add 3 to both sides. We get 6 equals b. So my equation is y equals 1/2 x plus 6. Alright, so that concludes the front side. Let's move over to the back. Okay, just some more practice, but you can see there's more fractions here. So already given the slope, 1/3. So let's just practice finding y-intercepts. So we have slope of 1/3. Now 1/3 multiplying is the same as dividing by 3. So if you don't like the idea of multiplying a fraction, just think of this as dividing by 3. It's the same thing. So I have my x is 9, my y is -2. And -2 equals 9 divided by 3, or times 1/3, same thing. So 9 divided by 3 is just 3. And subtract 3 on both sides. So we get -5 equals our y-intercept. And again, write an equation for your answer. So final answer, y equals slope, x, and y-intercept, -5. Okay, so 15, given the slope already, find the y-intercept. Now there is a shortcut for this. I'll show you that in a moment, but y is 1, m is 0, x is -7. Alright, now 0 times anything is just going to be 0. So we could write that. But then 0 plus anything is that anything. So we just get a y-intercept of 1. So you can see because of this 0 slope, it canceled out the x right away because it's times 0. So we're only really left with whatever the y was. So if we go to write our equation, it would be 0x and then plus 1. But again, we don't write anything with a 0 in it. So our equation is just y equals 1. And there's the shortcut I was telling you about. If you spot a 0 slope, you can really just go straight to the y coordinate and you see y is equal to 1, y is equal to 1, and we wouldn't have to do all this just to figure that out. So look at that slope, and if it's a 0 and the same thing happens with undefined, you can get a little shortcut. Okay. Let's do one more of the fraction. So for this, remember a slope of 5/2, when you're multiplying, it means multiply by 5 and divide by 2. So when we plug it in our slope-intercept form, right, we're going to take our x value, this is x, this is y, multiply it by x, and y equals, and to solve this, you have to multiply 2 by 5 and then divide by 2, Or you could actually divide by 2 first and then multiply by 5. Either way. Let's do that. 5 times negative 2 is the negative 10. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. So it's almost as if the 2 on the bottom and the 2 on the top canceled out, and I was left with a negative and a 5, so I got negative 5. So you can do the problems with fractions. Add 5 to both sides, you get 12, or the y-intercept. So final equation is y equals 5 over 2x plus 12. Alright, so that's the end of solving where they give you the slope. And you notice on all these there's 2 columns, but I just left the first column blank because they gave us the slope on each one. So there's no work to do there. From this point forward, they don't give you the slope at all. They just give you 2 points. So I'm going to have to use my slope formula, right, where you do the y's on top, x's on the bottom, subtract them, to find out what it is. You could also use the table method and just find out what's the change from one number to another. Just remember it's going to be y over x for your slope. So the right number goes on top and the left number goes on the bottom. Okay. So now I'll still use the same 2 columns, but I'll have more work to do for that first column now. So I'm going to always set these up so I have subtraction with parentheses, just in case I have these negatives. So the y's go on top, so I got a 2 and a 4, put those on top, 2 and a 4. And then we'll have x's on the bottom, 1 and 2. So we have negative 2, 2 minus 4 is negative 2, over negative 1, which just equals positive 1. So my slope is positive 1, and I know my equation is going to start off with y equals 1x. I have to figure out the y-intercept. So I can do that next. Y equals mx plus b. And I can choose either one of these. I can do 1 and 2 for my x, or I can do 2 and 4 for x and y there. So I usually go with the smaller numbers. So let's use 2 for y. My m equals 1, and my x equals 1. Positive 1. So 1 times 1 is just 1, and you can see this part is just the same as what we've been doing. And subtract to get the y-intercept. So I know my y-intercept is 1, so my answer will be y equals x plus 1. Notice how I didn't write 1x plus 1, I left the 1 off. So even though the slope is 1 here, I just wrote x instead of 1x. So y equals x plus 1. Okay, let's do a few more times practicing this. Okay, so let's find the slope. And start with these empty parentheses. It'll help when the negative numbers show up. So y's on top. We got 5 and 11. And x is on the bottom, 2 and 4. So 5 minus 11 is negative 6. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. And negative 6 divided by negative 2 is positive 3. Let's use that for our slope. So, and I'm going to use 2 and 5 for my x and y. So y is going to be 5. Right. Slope's going to be 3. X is going to be 2. Okay, so we have 6 from 2 times 3. and subtract 6 on both sides. Negative 6 plus 5 is negative 1. And write your final equation. Y equals 3x, right, 3 minus 1. Okay, last one for this row. Actually, let's do using the other method, just in case you're using that one. Okay. If I use the table method for the slope, I'll have negative 4 and 4, 1, negative 6. So how far is it from positive 4 down to negative 6? Right, I have to go down 10, because 4 minus 10 is negative 6. And negative 4 plus what will give us positive 1, and you'll get 5. Negative 4 plus 5 is 1. So my answer is y over x, negative 10 over positive 5, and negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2. That's using the table method. Alright, now let's do the y-intercept, only one method for that we're using. So we'll have negative 2 for slope. I'm going to use 1 and negative 6 for my x and y. So 1 and negative 6 for my y, get the plus b. So I have negative 2. Add 2 to both sides. So we have our m and our b. So write your equation. Y equals m x minus 4. Okay. Almost to the end. 3 more. Okay, so also going to show you a few shortcuts on these problems that you can watch out for, like I did earlier. So let's just set these all up. Like we normally do to start off with. My y's are negative 5, negative 5, and negative 5. And the x's are 3 and 7. Now remember, a negative and a negative make a positive, so that's actually going to be negative 5 plus 5, which does equal 0. And the bottom equals negative 4. And remember, when you have a 0 on top, okay, what kind of line is that? And if you're not sure if that's horizontal or vertical, you can kind of sketch these two and see what they would look like. 3 negative 5 would be over 3 down 5. And this would be over 7 down 5. So if you sketch this, you can see it's a horizontal line. And then put together that horizontal lines have a slope of 0. So 0 on top means the whole slope is 0. And then if you did the y-intercept part and use, let's see, 3 and negative 5, we had this happen before. When you have a slope of 0, it makes this whole part just equal 0. And 0 plus anything is 0. So you get a y-intercept of just negative 5. And we could write our equation out, y equals 0x minus 5, but again, we don't really need to put the 0 part of the equation, so our final answer is just y equals negative 5. So that's a long way of doing these. The short way is noticing that, look at both of the y values. See how they're both negative 5? So anytime both y values are the same, you know it's just going to be y equals to whatever number that is. So it's a little shortcut, and you wouldn't have to find the slope, you wouldn't have to do the y-intercept work. You could just look at the points and go straight to the answer. Alright, so let's do, let's see, one more that's all up. Plug everything in. So both y's are -1 and 6. And the x's are 4 and -3. Again, watch out for negatives, two negatives together, so that's going to be a positive. So I have -1 minus 6, which is -7, and 4 plus 3, which is +7. So -7 divided by +7 is just -1. And then we can finish it up. So no shortcut here. So -1 for the slope. And let's use this x and y. So I'm going to do -1 for the y-intercept, for the y, and x is going to be 4. We have -1 times 4, -4, and add 4 to both sides. 4 minus 1 is 3. So final equation, -1x plus 3. But again, we never really put the -1. We just write it as -x. -x plus 3. Final answer. Okay, our last problem is kind of one that's different from all the others, but we'll start it like the same and look for why it's different. So let's start like all the rest. We'll have -5 and 2, 8 and 8. So we have -7 from -5 minus 2, but 8 minus 8 is 0. So what happens when there's a 0 on the bottom? Again, if we went ahead and tried to sketch this, we'll see that 8 -5 would be like right here, and 8 +2 would be up here. That is a vertical line. Vertical lines have a undefined slope. And when you have undefined, you cannot do y equals mx plus b. This does not work, right? Because there is no, this equation, this line does not go through the y-axis. So we can't use a y equals equation when it doesn't even touch the y-axis. So this is out. So the only other option is to use x equals, right? And our x's on this problem are, right? X's are both 8, and that's another shortcut. It's kind of like number 21 we just did. If you can look at the problem ahead of time and you see if either the y's are the same or the x is the same, you can go straight from that to your answer without doing all the in-between work. So if both x's are the same, the equation is x equals whatever number it is. If both y's are the same, okay, then then you can go straight to the equation y equals whatever number they are. And so a couple shortcuts for you. One more shortcut I will mention is, what if they give you like m equals 2 and the point 0, 4? Okay, this might look like you have to do all that work, but there's something about this being a 0 right here. So if you look at this graph, 0, 4, that's the y-intercept. So that's the same question as if I said, what is the equation if you had a y-intercept of 4? See, these are the same thing because of the 0. And that equation is just going to be really fast, 2x plus 4. Because they kind of snuck in what the y-intercept is. They gave it to you, but you have to know that when they give you 0, any number, that any number is the y-intercept, and you don't need to do any work. So there's another little shortcut that will help you on the test. Alright, so good luck, and